So my name is Craig Pinkney. I'm a criminologist, urban youth specialist and director of Solve, the Centre for Youth Violence and Conflict. I've been doing youth work for about 16 and a half years. Literally, as soon as I left school, I was doing youth work. And it's kind of been weird because I would say that I've kind of done a 360. So I started off as a volunteer, became a youth worker, worked for a number of youth organisations, became a manager of a youth centre at one point. Then went into academia where I started teaching youth and community work. Then I did a master's in criminology. So then I started teaching criminal justice, offender management, and then started to kind of do like some European work or international work. And then I started to kind of write about some of my thoughts and feelings around some of the issues that were impacting children and young people in the UK. And then that took me to America, that took me to Jamaica. So I've kind of had a wide range of experiences in different kind of spaces in that kind of academic space. And then leaving academia, I then decided I wanted to open my own organization, which is Solve, which really kind of looks at the kind of passions that I've always had, critically looking at and addressing issues around violence and conflict. And, the term Solve makes perfect sense. Organizations want to know, professionals, practitioners, they want to know, how do we engage, and getting them to critically think about that so they can ultimately address it and solving the problem. I think it's weird in the sense that, the organization, I try to keep it as organic as possible. So I don't force and say that this is who we want to work with. However, over kind of the last, 12 months, it's been just really interesting with the type of, organization that we've come into contact with, working with the Crown Prosecution Service, working with the National Youth Agency, working with violent reduction units, working with children's services and, developing training, developing their professionals, being an advisor or a consultant, or working directly with their young people, it's just been an amazing thing. I think the future of Solve, I think it's limitless. I don't like to kind of have a kind of ceiling or limitation to where we can go. That's even amazing, some of the work that we've been doing recently. Over the last probably, 8 months, it's been a real significant time of things that are happening globally. We're talking about like things like the Black Lives Matter campaign and the kind of, issues around systemic racism, institutional racism, has forced us into thinking about how we can support organizations and getting them to think about some of their policies and procedures and how they implement those procedures in action that may impact adults and children and young people. So it's not just necessarily we're looking at young people, but also other forms of conflict. So when we kind of got into this work, part of the work that we do with some of those organizations is about getting them to think about and understand the global, national and local context in which they're in. So one of the programs that we run is around understanding racism and anti-racist practice. And we started to roll that out, and then we had a load of conversations with different organizations. So it's been organic in the sense that, we've reached out to a number of organizations. For example, we had, Chelsea Football Club, knock at the door, and really wanted to work closely with us about, the ideas of, racism that exists within football and getting them to kind of critically think about, the idea of racism and understanding racism and promoting anti-racist practice. And it's been really good because, it's an opportunity to kind of, invoke change. We're talking about, organizations, institutions, that historically were known for, racist practices. And it's just good that we are an organization that's supporting them in getting them to think about and change the new face because times change, people change. And I think one of the things that we are invested in is really kind of getting to the core of what some of the issues are and forcing people, through education, through training, through consultancy, to get them to really think about what do those practices look like, with the hope that those practices ultimately change so people's lives are ultimately better. And if you look at it in terms of a pecking order, we're talking about, organizations that work directly with children and young people, whether they're, playing for them, whether they're working in conjunction with them, whether they're helping them within local communities. And I guess that Solve is just a real interesting entity or part of the jigsaw that I feel that really is beneficial to a lot of organisations nationally.